The most dangerous person in your life is rarely the one who shouts the loudest or throws the first punch. No, real danger often comes wrapped in warmth, patience, and a smile that never quite reaches the eyes. They won't raise their voice. They won't leave obvious scars. Instead, they'll quietly rearrange your reality, one small, calculated move at a time, until you no longer trust your own instincts. And that's exactly how they win. The Stoics warned us that evil rarely walks in announcing itself. It sits beside you, it earns your trust, and then it slowly convinces you that the warning bells in your head are just overthinking. By the time you realize what's happening, you're already standing on ground they've been pulling out from under you piece by piece. In this video, we're going to expose 10 quiet, almost invisible signs that you're far too close to someone who will dismantle you if you let them. If you're ready to see what most people miss, hit like for raw truth without the sugarcoating, and drop a 1 in the comments if you want your eyes sharper than your enemy's lies. 1. They dilute your reality. Some of the most harmful people you'll ever meet will never openly insult your intelligence or call you unstable. That would be too obvious. Instead, they work quietly, subtly, chipping away at your confidence in your own perception. They'll challenge your recollection of events in small, calculated ways. You remember them promising something, but they insist you imagined it. You recall a conversation clearly, yet they suggest you've misunderstood. At first, these moments seem harmless, maybe even reasonable. After all, everyone remembers things differently sometimes. But over time, the pattern emerges. It's not occasional disagreement, it's a deliberate erosion of your reality. I once knew a man whose business partner operated this way. In the beginning, it was minor, altering details in their agreements, changing timelines, claiming certain discussions never happened. The man dismissed it as poor communication. But months later, he realized he was second-guessing his own memory so often that he had stopped making decisions without confirming them with his partner. That's the trap. Once you've been conditioned to question yourself, you become dependent on their version of events. And in that dependency, they gain power. Psychologists call this gaslighting, and it's one of the most effective forms of manipulation because it doesn't just control your actions, it rewires your sense of truth. You begin to feel unsteady, unsure, as if reality itself is a shifting floor beneath your feet. Marcus Aurelius warned, if it's not true, don't say it. If it's not right, don't do it. The manipulator's philosophy is the opposite. They thrive in the grey areas where facts can be blurred just enough to keep you questioning yourself, but not enough for you to confront them with certainty. This constant distortion is exhausting, and that exhaustion works in their favor. When you're too tired to challenge them, you're easier to control. The Stoic answer is to anchor yourself in objective reality and record it when necessary. Keep written notes of agreements, follow up conversations with clear summaries, and trust your own senses unless proven otherwise. The goal isn't to argue them into honesty. You'll never win that fight, but to keep your perception sharp enough that their fog can't settle over you. And while this tactic is one of the most insidious, it rarely comes alone. Once someone starts bending your reality, the next step is often to isolate your perspective entirely, which is where we turn next. 2. They never celebrate you fully. Psychologists have a term for what some people do when they acknowledge your achievement but immediately undercut it. It's called backhanded praise. On the surface, it looks like support. They might compliment your work, your success, or your progress. But there's always an asterisk attached, a subtle qualifier that turns pride into doubt. It might sound like advice, perspective, or even concern, but the impact is the same. Your accomplishment feels smaller, as if it only matters when they approve of it. This isn't constructive feedback. It's a quiet method of control. Over time, these small, calculated comments erode your self-assurance. You start relying on them to validate how you should feel about your own progress. Even when you're proud of yourself, a part of you waits for their opinion before deciding if that pride is justified. That's the moment you've handed them the keys to your confidence. The Stoics would call this a dangerous dependency. Epictetus reminded us, if you seek truth, you will not seek to gain a reputation in the eyes of others. In other words, your worth and progress are not up for negotiation. Marcus Aurelius echoed this when he said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." When someone's approval becomes the gate through which all your pride must pass, you've surrendered control over one of the most essential parts of your identity, your self-respect. The solution isn't to shut yourself off from all feedback. It's to separate genuine, growth-oriented advice from manipulative, diminishing commentary. Genuine feedback builds without belittling. It points out room for improvement while still allowing you to own your current success. The harmful version subtly keeps you in check, so you never feel fully secure without them. A Stoic doesn't mistake the sound of applause for the presence of respect. They measure their worth internally, rooted in effort, principle, and discipline, not in the shifting moods of another person. If the recognition you receive comes with a leash attached, it isn't recognition, it's conditioning. And once you learn to spot that, you'll also start noticing the next form of quiet harm, the calculated creation of guilt to keep you in place. 3. They're always the victim. One of the most telling traits of a truly harmful person is their ability to cast themselves as the perpetual victim. No matter the situation, no matter how clearly their actions caused harm, they will find a way to redirect blame outward. If they lie, it's because someone forced them into it. If they hurt someone, it's because circumstances left them no choice. Life is always happening to them, never because of them. This is more than simple denial. It's a calculated tactic that manipulates your natural compassion into a tool for their protection. When you feel sorry for them, you're less likely to hold them accountable. When you view them as wounded, you become willing to excuse behaviors you would never tolerate from someone else. And over time, that compassion becomes a leash. You stay, you forgive, you overlook, not because it's right, but because you've been made to believe that abandoning them would be an act of cruelty. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The manipulative person knows this instinctively and exploits it. They feed you a constant stream of imagined grievances, exaggerated hardships, and one-sided stories designed to keep you sympathetic. The more you buy into their narrative, the more their suffering becomes your responsibility to fix. The Stoic sees this for what it is, a transfer of burden. Your role shifts from an equal partner, friend, or family member into a caretaker for their perpetual crises. Crises that often exist more in drama than in reality. Stoic philosophy teaches that while empathy is noble, it must be balanced with reason. True compassion does not mean enabling harmful behavior or allowing someone's self-pity to dictate your actions. The moment you notice that every interaction leaves you feeling responsible for their life, you must step back and evaluate. Are you helping, or are you being held in place by the weight of a story that never ends? A Stoic chooses to stand in truth, even if it means walking away from someone's endless performance of pain. And just as they use pity to tether you emotionally, the next tactic often appears as something else entirely. A strategic removal of your independence, disguised as concern. That's where we turn next. 4. They respect you, selectively. One of the clearest signs you're dealing with a harmful person is when their respect for you is conditional, switched on or off depending on who's watching. In public, they may treat you with charm, politeness, and a surface-level attentiveness that makes others think your relationship is solid. But behind closed doors, that respect evaporates. They interrupt you mid-sentence, dismiss your opinions without thought, or treat your needs as inconveniences. This split behavior isn't random. It's a carefully maintained camouflage. I once knew a couple where the husband was the picture of a devoted partner in social settings, opening doors, listening intently, praising her to friends. Yet in private, he regularly ignored her concerns and undermined her decisions. She told me it left her feeling invisible in her own home, but trapped because everyone else believed they had the perfect relationship. That's exactly how this tactic works. The public image becomes a shield, making it harder for you to be believed if you speak up. From a psychological perspective, this duality creates a form of cognitive dissonance. You cling to the public version of them, hoping it's the real one, while enduring the private disrespect in silence. Over time, this wears down your self-worth because you start measuring your value by how they treat you in front of others, rather than how they treat you when no one is looking. The Stoics warned against being fooled by appearances. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can show me that what I think or do is wrong, I will gladly change. But until then, I will hold to what is true." The truth here is simple. Respect that disappears when the audience leaves was never respect. It was a performance. And no matter how convincing the act, the private reality is the one that reveals their character. Recognizing this pattern is liberating because it frees you from chasing the good version of them as if it's something you can earn. You stop mistaking selective respect for genuine care and start measuring relationships by consistency, not by moments. And often, when this selective respect starts to falter, the harmful person will employ another tactic to keep you off balance, using your own insecurities as quiet weapons against you. That's the sign we'll uncover next. 5. They starve you of certainty. One of the most subtle yet exhausting tactics harmful people use is keeping you in a constant state of uncertainty. They're vague about their plans, unclear about their commitments, and evasive when you seek direct answers. You're left piecing together fragments, trying to interpret tone, reading between the lines, and filling in the gaps with your own assumptions. This isn't poor communication or forgetfulness, it's deliberate. Confusion becomes their leash, keeping you mentally tethered as you wait for them to finally clarify what they want. From a psychological perspective, this is a form of intermittent reinforcement, the same tactic used in gambling. By giving you occasional moments of clarity or affection, they condition you to tolerate long stretches of uncertainty in the hope of another small reward. Over time, this keeps you chasing their approval or attention, often without realizing how much control they've gained over your thoughts and emotions. The Stoics understood that clarity is a form of freedom. Epictetus would remind us that you cannot live well if your peace depends on someone else's unpredictable moods or shifting intentions. If someone truly values you, they don't keep you guessing. They give you the truth plainly, even when it's uncomfortable. When you're starved of certainty, your mind shifts from living your own life to managing theirs. You rearrange your schedule, your priorities, and sometimes your principles just to align with whatever version of reality they're offering that day. This is why the harm runs so deep. Not only are they controlling your present, but they're also limiting your future by keeping you in a reactive state rather than a deliberate one. The Stoic solution is simple, though not always easy. Refuse to live in prolonged ambiguity. When answers are consistently withheld, see it as the answer in itself. People who truly care about you don't let you live in confusion. They don't keep the ground beneath you unstable. They offer clarity because they want you to stand firmly, not because they're afraid of what will happen if you do. And once uncertainty loses its grip on you, you'll start to notice another tactic harmful people often use, disguising criticism as concern so it slips past your defenses. That's the next sign to watch for. 6. They undermine your other connections. Psychologists have long noted that one of the most effective ways to control another person is to weaken their support network. Harmful people do this not through open demands, but through subtle erosion, offhand remarks about your friends, quiet suggestions that certain family members don't have your best interests at heart, or constant positioning of themselves as the only person who truly understands you. The aim is not to convince you all at once, but to plant seeds of doubt until your circle thins out naturally. This tactic is dangerous because isolation doesn't feel like isolation at first. It feels like closeness. You start spending more time with them, not because they forbid you from seeing others, but because they've made you question whether anyone else is truly worth your trust. And the fewer perspectives you hear, the more their voice becomes the dominant one in your life. The Stoics warned about the company we keep. Epictetus advised, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. If someone's presence leads to the quiet disappearance of your other meaningful relationships, you are not being uplifted, you're being contained." Marcus Aurelius put it plainly. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. When all your thoughts are filtered through one person's influence, your independence begins to dissolve. The solution is to actively guard the diversity of your connections. A healthy relationship does not require you to shrink your circle. It strengthens your ability to interact widely and confidently. Real love and respect do not fear outside influence. They welcome it. If your world is getting smaller, if you're speaking to fewer people, and if you find yourself relying on one person for all emotional interpretation, that is not closeness, it's captivity. And those who isolate you often use the next step to cement that control, eroding your confidence in ways so subtle you might not even notice until it's almost gone. That's the sign we'll uncover next. 7. They smile at your struggle. One of the darker signs of a truly harmful person is their reaction when life knocks you down. They may not burst into obvious laughter, that would be too revealing, but you'll notice the subtle cues. A smirk they fail to hide when you make a mistake. A measured pause before responding to your bad news, as if savoring it. A joking remark about your misfortune that somehow cuts deeper than any honest criticism. These are not slips of the tongue or harmless quirks. They are moments of unguarded truth, when the mask of empathy slips and you glimpse the satisfaction they take in your hardship. I once watched a man share news about losing a major client in his business. Instead of offering genuine support, his supposed friend leaned back, smiled faintly and said, "Well, maybe this will finally teach you not to be so confident." That single sentence revealed everything. It wasn't advice, it was a celebration disguised as concern. And while the sting of betrayal fades with time, the realization that someone enjoyed your pain leaves a far deeper scar. From a psychological standpoint, this behavior often comes from envy or insecurity. Your successes threaten them, so your struggles become moments of relief, proof that you're not so perfect after all. By finding joy in your setbacks, they regain a fleeting sense of superiority. Marcus Aurelius offered a solution rooted in dignity. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. The Stoic response is not to try to change the harmful person. You cannot remove malice from another's heart, but to stand so firmly in your own composure that their private enjoyment of your pain becomes meaningless. You deny them the reaction they seek. Recognizing this pattern is crucial because those who smile at your struggle rarely stop there. The next step is often more invasive, undermining your goals and progress under the guise of helping you. And that's the next warning sign you need to be ready for. 8. They keep score. One of the most corrosive traits in a harmful person is their inability to give without expecting something in return. On the surface, they may seem generous, offering help, doing favors, or providing resources when you need them. But these gestures are never truly free. Each one comes with an invisible tally mark, part of a mental ledger you can't see but will eventually feel. At some point, often when it benefits them most, they will cash in on these so-called gifts, framing them as debts you owe. This is not generosity, it's transaction disguised as kindness. True giving, as the Stoics understood, ends the moment the gift leaves your hands. Epictetus would say that a gift ceases to be a gift if it is given for the sake of return. When a person's acts of kindness are driven by the expectation of repayment, whether through loyalty, obedience, or silence, they're not enriching your life. They're buying leverage over you. The psychological impact of this kind of giving is subtle but profound. You begin to feel an unspoken obligation to accommodate them, even in situations where you otherwise wouldn't. They don't have to demand compliance outright. The weight of their past kindness does the work for them. Over time, this debt-based dynamic reshapes your choices, making you less likely to assert yourself or set boundaries for fear of appearing ungrateful. The Stoic solution is to redefine what you accept and from whom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to receive without pride, let go without attachment. If accepting help means inheriting chains, it's not help, it's bait. Protecting your independence sometimes means declining what's offered, not out of pride, but out of the clarity that nothing given with strings is truly for your benefit. And often, those who keep score will escalate their control further by twisting your own emotions into tools against you, a tactic we'll expose in the next sign. 9. They're comfortable in the grey. One of the most dangerous qualities in a harmful person is their comfort in moral ambiguity. For them, right and wrong are not guiding principles, but flexible tools, bendable, adjustable, and always open to reinterpretation if it means securing an advantage. They treat ethics as negotiable, applying them only when convenient and discarding them the moment they become an obstacle. This is not adaptability. It's opportunism in its purest form. From a psychological standpoint, this is what researchers call moral disengagement, the mental process that allows someone to justify harmful actions without feeling guilt. They reframe their behavior, shift blame, or claim that context changes the rules. Over time, this creates a world where nothing is truly wrong if it serves their goals. And if you stay close to someone like this, your own moral boundaries will be tested, not with obvious demands, but with subtle compromises that erode your integrity piece by piece. The Stoics warned about such corruption. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The harmful person operates by the inverse of this rule. If it benefits them, they will do it. And if it serves their agenda, they will say it, regardless of the truth. Epictetus taught that a person's true strength is measured by what they refuse to trade away, even under pressure. The one who thrives in the grey has already sold their principles cheaply, and they will sell yours too if it serves their advantage. To protect yourself, you must stand firmly on your own moral ground, even when it's costly. Refuse to rationalize behavior that contradicts your core values, no matter how persuasive the argument or how minor the compromise appears. Once you start bending your principles for someone else's comfort, you will soon find yourself standing on ground that is no longer your own. And often, those who live comfortably in this moral twilight have one more defining trait. They can walk away from the damage they cause without a flicker of remorse. That final sign is where we turn next. 10. They drain without touching. Some harmful people never raise their voice, never insult you directly, and never create obvious conflict. Instead, their impact is measured in how you feel after being around them. You notice the weight, not in your body, but in your mind. Your thoughts feel muddier, your focus slips, and a subtle heaviness lingers long after they've left. It's not dramatic enough to point to a single moment, but the cumulative effect is unmistakable. They corrode your peace without ever touching you. I remember speaking with a man who said he couldn't understand why he always felt so depleted after visiting a certain friend. There were no arguments, no overt tension, just an undercurrent of comparison, small interruptions, and quiet shifts in tone that left him doubting himself by the end of each conversation. That's the hidden signature of a harmful person. They change the climate of your inner world without leaving any obvious evidence behind. Psychologically, this is emotional depletion, a draining of mental resources through subtle cues, body language, tone, or an energy of constant judgment. It's why you can feel exhausted after certain interactions even when nothing happened. And the danger is that you may blame yourself for feeling that way, convincing yourself it's just your own mood or overthinking. Marcus Aurelius understood the importance of protecting this inner climate when he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." If someone's presence consistently muddies those thoughts, they are not safe to keep near, regardless of how polite, charming, or well-meaning they appear. The Stoic solution is to guard your mental space with the same vigilance you would guard your home. Not every guest is worth inviting inside. If you consistently feel worse after someone leaves, that's all the proof you need. You don't need a confrontation, an explanation, or their approval to step back. You only need to choose peace over erosion. And understanding all 10 of these quiet signs isn't just about spotting harm. It's about reclaiming the clarity and strength that harmful people try to steal. That's exactly what we'll seal this lesson with in the conclusion. The greatest danger isn't just being hurt, it's being slowly conditioned to see that hurt as normal. That's how harmful people win. Not through one big blow, but through steady, quiet erosion until you can't even remember what peace feels like. A Stoic knows the first duty is to guard the mind. You don't wait for undeniable proof. You don't gamble on the hope they'll change. You see the signs, and you step back before their chaos becomes your climate. Because every day you stay close to someone like this, you're teaching yourself to survive in a smaller, darker world. If this opened your eyes, hit like, without the sugarcoating, and drop a quick 1 in the comments if you're choosing to protect your peace starting today. Harmful people will always exist, but you alone decide how close they get to your soul. And that decision, once made with clarity, changes everything.